agreed to convene here tomorrow at noontime. I would not read into this optimism or pessimism. We're just continue to negotiate.
And we continue to bring you Game Time. Hello again, basketball fans. Welcome to the show. Rick Kamla and Dennis Scott here in Atlanta. We'll be joined shortly by TNT's David Aldridge from New York. But first, here is the news of the day. The NBA and the Players Union engaged in another marathon bargaining session on Wednesday, with the talks beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern and ending at roughly 1 a.m. Eastern on Thursday morning. NBA Commissioner David Stern had set a deadline of 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday for the players to accept the owner's latest proposal, but Wednesday's talks pushed back that deadline for at least another day, as the sides, as David said, will reconvene at noon Eastern on Thursday to continue working toward a new collective bargaining agreement. David Stern addressed the issues on the table.
There are many other issues of importance. And so it's, it just behooves us to make sure that all of those issues are put on the table, together with all the system issues, together with the economic split, and see whether there can emerge from that rather lengthy list the ability to make a deal.
I can't characterize, whether they show flexibility or not in certain system issues. I mean, obviously we'd have a deal done if the right flexibility was being shown. So the fact that, we don't have a deal, obviously lets you know that there's still a lot of work to be done on the system.
Our goal is to have a system in which all 30 teams are competing for championships, and if well managed, they have the opportunity to break even or make a profit. So we don't see the ability to break even or make a profit as a trade-off for the ability to field a competitive team. So, all of those issues are still in play.
Rick Kamla in Atlanta, David Aldridge in New York. DA has been staking out the talks for the last 12 hours or so. DA, thanks for joining us here. Let's tee it up this way. 12 hours, 133 days in, still no deal. Why is that?
Well, Rick, I mean, they've got tough issues that they have to try to navigate. These system issues are very difficult to find any common ground with. And these two sides, they've been trying to find some common ground, but you're talking about fundamentally different approaches. The players want to keep as much freedom in the system as possible, and the owners want to try to restrict some of that freedom, or at least make it so untenable financially for teams that they don't want to do it very often. So those are difficult issues, and as you heard in the pressers, they didn't make a whole lot of progress on any of those five that we've been talking about for the last week or so that are really kind of holding them up on the system side. When you talk about the ability to sign and trade, if you're a team that's paying the tax, the repeater tax, if you've done it 3 times in 5 years, the escrow for players, the cliff for teams that go into the tax once or twice but aren't regular taxpayers. These are issues that are very difficult, and the mid-level exception when the league wants a much smaller one for teams that pay the tax. So tough issues, and they've tried. I actually think they made some progress today. Now maybe they didn't finish anything, but I do think they made some progress today, and I think coming back tomorrow gives them a better chance of maybe breaking through than trying to do it tonight when they've been at it for 12 hours already. So I think if you want to read one small positive into it, maybe it's that.
Well, DA, the first 100 days, it was all about the BRI. Now these last 33 days have been about the system. Are there some other issues that haven't come out yet, the one and done, or you talked about the sign and trade? Is there another issue or two that we haven't heard of yet?
Really, I think those are all minor issues. I mean, there are some questions about the college eligibility and things like that, and ancillary issues for fans anyway, such as, tickets for all-star games and things like that. But, I mean, all of that stuff is kind of secondary and I think can be done fairly quickly. These are the big issues. The system thing is the big thing, and that's what's really holding this up. And until they can get a breakthrough on a couple of those, I think it's going to be difficult for them to go forward. Now, I just can't help but think they must be close to making some progress on a couple of those. Now, it's going to be tough to get to all 5, and maybe they need all 5 to get a deal done. But I think the rest of the stuff is probably on the B list and is stuff that can be handled fairly quickly once you get the money issues done.
DA, how close are the owners to finalizing the enhanced revenue sharing plan? And if they are close, or if that has been agreed to, could that accelerate these talks towards a new collective bargaining agreement?
Well, probably not, Rick, because, the league has been fairly consistent in saying that the revenue sharing is going to come after the new collective bargaining agreement. I don't think it takes a math major to figure out that the league is probably looking to see exactly how much money it's going to get from the players in terms of this new collective bargaining agreement. If we start from the notion that the players are going to be at 50%, which it certainly looks like they're going to be going forward, you're talking about anywhere from $2.8 billion to $3.2 billion that they're going to be getting back from the players in salary. That gives them a starting point as to how much money they think they'll need from revenue sharing to make it a viable program. So they're not going to do that before they know exactly how many dollars are going to be in the system going forward with a new CBA.
DA, I know we touched about this the other night. If nothing works out tomorrow's meetings, is decertification still one of the cards for the players?
Well, it is, but again, we want to be careful about the terms we're using. There's 2 types of things. There's the disclaimer of interest is what they're talking about now, as opposed to official decertification. And the disclaimer of interest would simply be the union abandoning its role as the collective bargaining unit for the players, and that would allow the players to go into court much faster than if they decertified. Now, when you filed it with the disclaimer of interest, you still have a 45-day period before you actually vote on decertification. Now, it doesn't mean you won't vote on decertification, but during that period, I think the feeling is that they may be able to continue negotiating with the league while they're waiting for that vote. Now, again, I was told today they're ready to go. They've got more than enough signatures. They needed 130 signatures on cards. They have much more than that. They're ready to go. And if this does happen and these negotiations do break down, they will file that disclaimer of interest very quickly.
DA, what about the notion that, if when the players start missing checks, that it could, bring the sides together and that a deal could become more possible at that point? Talk about that. What do you know about that?
Well, I mean, that's obviously been an operating theory that the players will capitulate when they start feeling economic pain, Rick. But you got to remember something now. They're getting that escrow money back. They're getting the underage money back from the league that they didn't get when they didn't hit 57% last year in the last year of the CBA. They're also getting that escrow money back. So what Billy Hunter told us was at the beginning of November, each player was going to get at least $100,000, depending on how much money they made. Some will get more, depending on their salary last year. So in that sense, they really aren't going to miss that many checks in November because they're going to be kind of partially compensated by the league based on those things that we talked about. So will they feel pain? I suppose they will later if this drags on. But at least right now, I don't know that they're going to be in as dire straits financially as you may think.
DA, fantastic stuff. Get some rest. We'll talk to you again on Thursday, and we look forward to it.
Well, I hope we have a good day on Thursday, Rick.
Maybe an intentional Freudian slip right there by DA saying deal when he meant day. We all want a deal. All right. So, Dennis, let me ask you this. During the 1998 lockout, you were still a player at that point. You were in the room for some of the bargaining sessions. Take us into the room, okay, and especially at this late stage where we're already into the season. The first month has been lost. How contentious is it? What is said? And just go through the machinations of what goes on in the room.
It's kind of like it's the fourth quarter or we're in triple overtime. The intensity is in overdrive. Guys are grouping up, kind of like you're in school. You're getting your focus groups. You're getting the idea. You come together. They don't get back. You go back to your focus group again. You come back with another idea. Sometimes you have some wiggle room. You agree to one issue. Then you go to the second issue. Things don't go well. You go back to that first issue, messes that up. So it's going back and forth, trying to come up with creative ideas so both sides feel comfortable to get this deal done.
And, you know, throughout this whole process, a lot has been mentioned about the BRI. And obviously, as DA mentioned, the system issues are really key in this whole process. But you heard David Stern and Billy Hunter in their press conferences after the 12-hour session that went Wednesday into Thursday. Both guys said that there are a lot of other issues. Is that concerning to you?
A little bit, because the two main issues we've known about, the BRI and the system. Now, what part of the system's outside of length of contracts, the economics, we know David touched on the escrow, so some players, all the players will get some money, depending on what you made will determine how much you get. So that being said, there is a little cushion there for guys to really stick this thing out, knowing they will get some money.
Well, we're just getting started here on Game Time. When we continue, we're going to continue the lockout conversation with the great Reggie Miller. He's insightful, he's opinionated, and he brings it on Game Time when we come back.